This podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Between the time when gamers played with miniatures and chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of advanced role-playing undreamed of. And onto the Skygax, destined to bear the jeweled crown of TSR upon a troubled brow, it was given to teach us all how to roll for initiative.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
You are listening to the Roll for Initiative podcast. This is volume number 3, issue number 126. This week we'll be doing Letters to the Editor, part 3. I'm DM Vince, sitting with DM Matt.
Hello, everyone.
DM Nick.
Hello.
And we're welcoming DM Chad along the cast permanently now.
Hey there.
Chad has been upgraded from GM to DM now, officially.
New and improved.
That's right. You're no longer an NPC either.
Yeah. No, that was only reserved for Jason, so.
Oh, okay. That's right.
Can I be a wandering monster?
You could be if you'd really like to be.
Yes, you get to be a gelatinous cube.
It's a bit too random for me.
Yeah.
No, you get to be a gelatinous cube. You work your way up from there.
Quicker picker-upper.
Yes.
Hope everyone enjoyed the show.
I never heard of a gelatinous cube put that way before. Yes. But that's good.
You're soaking in it.
Between that and a rust monster, you can clean anything.
That's true.
So I got that going for me.
Okay, let me rope everybody back in now. Come on, guys, come back to the show. So, Matt, what happened last week? You were hosting a tournament or refereeing?
I was at the Cincinnati Comic Expo. I was actually working the booth for Illuminati Games in Westchester, Ohio. They had a booth there, and they were also running the gaming area, so I was helping out in the booth and then also running some HeroClix tournaments there. So pretty much most of my convention consisted of just staying in a very small area. So I actually didn't really get to see much of the Comic-Con.
That sucks.
Yeah. Other than I did wander out long enough to get Billy Boyd's autograph for a friend whose birthday it was that wasn't able to actually attend.
Oh.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. So I got to meet Pippin. But yeah. Other than that, yeah.
Did you get any good comics?
No, I actually got to do zero shopping there. I was pretty much working the booth the entire time.
He was a working girl.
Yep.
He was a booth babe.
Yep, but hey, I work their booth. They give me free product, so it works.
Yeah.
Been there, done that.
Nick does that on a daily basis. So
no,
actually,
I've done
I
that
wanted
before.
to go there and do that, but I wasn't able to go.
Oh, sad.
Yes.
Sad panda face.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yes, unhappy.
Unhappy.
So we got a lot of emails and a lot of voicemail that we haven't gone through in a while. And
So
I know,
we're going to go through the mailbag.
yeah, a lot of people have been like, what about my email? What about my voicemail? So I said, since the last couple shows we skipped it entirely, I was just like, man, let's just do the shows. And Matt wasn't around, so I just was like, I'm in control.
Right.
So
You're like, screw segments, we'll just do one show.
exactly. Screw segments. Let's just make Matt's job even harder.
Yeah, or simpler. Actually.
But I do want to point out a new feature since the new operating system did drop on the iPhone, the iOS 7.
Yeah.
That now you can put a subscription together for your favorite podcast and just hit one button and downloads all the things whenever they have new shows.
Ooh.
Nifty.
It was basically listen to all the Wild Games Productions podcasts in one shot. As a
Wow.
place.
But surely something like that must cost $100.
Not even.
$50?
No.
$25?
3 payments of $7,995. I'm kidding.
And if I order now, will I get any steak knives?
No steak knives. You'll get Matt one day for free.
Really?
Can I return it?
Wow.
I
I
like the
was going to
steak
say,
knives,
get
please.
the wooden sword from Hidden Shrine of Tomoe-chan, which is +6 against gas spores.
Yes. No, actually, it's a free thing, and it works really good. I've been listening to all the shows. You could pretty much, they set them up in a playlist for you, and you're good to go.
Right.
But chaptering is not there, and people keep asking about chaptering. That is dead and gone.
Yeah.
Go complain to Tim Cook. If you can complain to him enough and he puts chaptering back, then we'll talk.
Yeah, so to quote Microsoft, hashtag deal with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I just got fired. Oh, darn. Fired me because I said that to all the fans. Hashtag deal with it. Anyways, let's jump right into the voicemails. 570-865-4210, the hotline, where no one has been standing by. We just left an old audio cassette tape recorder there to take messages.
Yeah, we had a gelatinous cube fall asleep sitting at the phone, see?
The cubes fall asleep?
Yeah,
I did my best.
Not you, Chad. All right, first
the other one.
Oh.
Yes, the gelatinous cube named Chad. I love it.
It's a very personal key. Yeah, okay, let's go to the first verse.
Hey, RFI, this is DM Angelo from Los Angeles. I got a quick question for you guys. I just ran a game last week. Well, actually, 2 games last week at our local convention. And at the end of both games, the big bad guy at the end of the game was a adult black dragon. And my question for you guys is, how would you guys beef up it doesn't necessarily have to be a black dragon, just an adult dragon in general, for the standard AD&D party size of 6 to 8 players. For instance, this one I was running the adventure for 4 to 7 levels, 6 to 8 players, and it seemed like the party had a fairly easy time getting through this dragon both times. The first set of adventurers, all but 2 survived. But the second set of adventures, everybody made it out alive. And I just, one way that I beef up dragons is when you get face to face with one, I give them a tail swipe, which can be pretty brutal and hit several opponents. But I'd like to hear how you guys beat dragons up in general. All over the board. Any kind of suggestions would be pretty awesome, and I'd love to hear from you guys. And I'd like to hear how different GMs handle situations like that. But anyways, appreciate everything you guys are doing. Keep up the good work. Especially love that last show that you guys did with Luke, asking him the questions. That was pretty hot. I love that last show you guys did. Anyway, thanks a lot. Keep up the good work, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, anyone want to field that one?
Oh, yeah. I got this one.
Go ahead, Nick.
Actually, there's a good article in Dragon Magazine back in issue 50, June of 1981. You can also find it in the Best of Dragon Volume 3. It's called Self-Defense for Dragons, Giving Them a Fighting Chance, by a guy by the name of Gregory Rinn. And basically what he does is, depending on the age of the dragon, either small, average, or huge size, he gives them basically extra attacks. Besides their 2 claws and a bite, if it's depending on the average, on the age, excuse me, a smaller dragon is obviously going to do less damage with its claw and bite attacks. Same thing when it's average or huge, it goes up incrementally. But he also gives dragons like wing buffets. So 2 wing buffet attacks. Maybe also you can add in 2 wing claws on the wing, and a foot stomp and a tail lash attack. And the tail lash attack he gives different types of tails maybe these dragons will have. Is it a plated tail? It's covered with armor plates. Does it have a spikes on the end? Does it have like a spade type end on the tail? Is it a whiplash, kind of just like a whiplash type of tail, or is it like a constrictor snake? It'll try to wrap you up and constrict. So, like for example, he gives for the a plated type tail. A small dragon would have 1 to 8 points of damage. Average size 2 to 16 points, and huge would be 3 to 24. So some of this damage is pretty nasty. So you're getting extra attacks with these dragons. So if you want to add in these other things like the wing buffets, the claws, the foot stomp, and the tail lash, basically you could give a dragon 3, 5, 7 attacks around. So that's one way of doing it.
Nick, you read my mind, because I mean that was an article I think I brought up a couple weeks ago when we were talking about the Rolaids Dragon supplement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a really great article. And one of the things that they talked about was combining the dragon's breath weapon with their wing buffet. So you could have a red dragon create a blazing inferno, and then he uses his breath weapon, and then he uses wing buffets to fan it into an area wide inferno.
Almost become like a fireball kind of effect.
Exactly. And now it's no longer, and he's immune to it.
Right.
But it's no longer where he's looking. It's everywhere around him as it catches fire. With white dragons, they can shatter ice and use their wings to throw shrapnel.
I was just
dragons,
thinking
dust
how
storms.
you could do that with other breath weapons. Like the flapping of the wings. Like for a green dragon, it uses his breath weapon. Maybe fan out the chlorine gas in a wider area.
Exactly.
Might do less damage, but it's going to cover a larger area. Maybe you can even do something like that with a black dragon.
Black dragons could use their mass if they're in the water to capsize boats, to create waves.
It's true.
Which would spread their acid further.
Yeah, or you can, like the acid, when he gives the breath weapon using the wings flapping, maybe it sprays it out more in more of a fanning effect.
Exactly.
Maybe you'd have the range or something like that, half the range, but it covers a wider area or something like that. So
exactly, wider area.
Playing the dragon smartly.
Yeah, and and another thing he talks about is take a look at the monster manual and refer to that as the typical, smaller size dragon, and then go up. So dragons do exponentially more damage than what's listed in the DMG as they become older.
Right.
I do also know that there is something if you look at the first edition AD&D version of the Forgotten Realms box set, there is a section in there. It's like just a couple of pages maybe on dragons in the Forgotten Realms and how those dragons are beefed up. And I don't remember the specifics, but if I remember correctly, one thing I do remember is about their breath weapons. They could do it more than 3 times a day. They can split up the damage on their breath weapon, so they could do less than one time, more than another, however they want to do it. And but that's another real good way of looking at it. If you can't find the Dragon Magazine article, if you have the Forgotten Realms box set for first edition, you can refer to that too. And also just remember playing dragons smartly, Yeah.
Oh, exactly. And don't forget the fact that if it's an older dragon, it's probably a spellcaster, and it probably has minions.
Right.
And also remember, dragons will also use the terrain to their advantage as well. Their lairs, they will craft their lair to suit their needs. So perhaps they'll have some defenses built into their lair. Say you're coming upon a blue dragon. Perhaps the first thing you have to walk through when you get into his lair is a giant pool of water. So you're sitting there standing in this water when he blasts his breath weapon at the pool of water. So you get a nice little lightning shock.
There you go.
So just think of it in not necessarily even cranking up the stats of the dragon or giving them more attacks or whatever. You can play them by the book if you basically think through their lair and everything they can use in their lair to their advantage. Like, say, their horde. If things start going bad, they'll start using those magic weapons or magic items in their horde. So,
exactly.
Right. They have lots of stuff. They will use it all depending on the threat.
Matt, I believe it was you. I'm sorry. I believe, Matt, didn't you mention one time? I really like this. You were saying, what if a white dragon encases its treasure in ice?
Right. Yeah. Just imagine, like, it's all, okay, so, yeah, all this treasure's there. It's now encased of ice. Yeah, so if you want to get to it, you now have to chip it out for now. Or perhaps for your, like, black dragons and their acid, they, like, you have to go through, like, a giant vat of acid, and all of the magic items are actually stored underneath it, since the acid itself wouldn't harm them.
Mm-hmm.
What about a white dragon that happens to put, I don't know, something to the dimensions of a moat around its treasure with a thin layer of snow over it, which is really covering very narrow ice, and there's a deep crevasse under it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So you use the terrain.
Yep. And who's to say those dragons couldn't use some of those magic items? Put a couple rings on their wing claws. Why not?
Yeah. Let them use a staff like a wand.
Sure.
Right.
Well, there we go. And knowing's half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Yo, Joe, Nick, get it right.
What?
And that's one to grow on.
Next voicemail coming up.
Hi, DM, Nick, Vince, and Matt. This is Jeff from Nick's home group, and I really wanted to give a little shout out for the show here. I started listening to it in Afghanistan about 2 years ago now, and I've really started listening even more now that I realized I can download straight from your website right onto my Droid and listen to it with the stock apps. What I really called about, though, is Dragonlance Adventures. You guys have done a couple of reviews on this, both when you had Tracy Hickman and a little bit when you had Margaret Weiss online. While it was a nice look at the product, most of the show, as required, kind of what ended up being the story behind the story, which was great to hear. Love hearing interviews with those two. Would love to hear more. But the product itself, I believe, deserves more attention. There's so much more in it for both players and GMs. Just looking at the Knights of Solamnia and their rather unique advancement process, the Wizards of High Sorcery, and the incredible amount of variation in their power levels even as they advance in level. The different races, specifically Minotaurs as a player character race, one of my absolute favorite groups of monsters, the Draconians, and some of the magic items ending with probably one of the most disgusting artifact-type weapons out there, the Hammer of Terrace. My question for you guys is, have you ever considered reviewing the product in a more detailed manner? Thanks for your time. Bye.
To answer your question, no. Next question. I thought we did like quite a bit of show time on Dragonlance. Did we not, Matt? Or?
Well, we did. We've touched on the Dragonlance books when we've talked about other various topics as well. So that's why to us it seems like we've covered a lot of Dragonlance because it's not necessarily in specific Dragonlance shows. Like when we talked about Knights, that's when we talked about the Knights of Solamnia. Then we had the Dragonlance Adventure Show where we had Tracy Hickman on and we talked about Dragon Armor, alignment tracking, GNOME device creation. I mean, so... It
was like kind of the background about the book, how it kind of came to be on that one a lot, too.
Right.
Although, I always enjoyed... I always liked the way that they treated the elven relations between the different elven clans. It was, you could translate into Greyhawk with, this is how high elves are treated by gray elves. I don't know. That might be an interesting area to get into.
Well, I don't know. We'll take a look at it, I suppose.
I have to dig out the book and go back and take a look at it. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I know it's a first edition book. I remember that much. So
good, Nick. I'm glad you're on top.
Yeah. Well, obviously Jeff there, who is from my gaming group, is a big fan of Dragonlance. So what can I say?
Well, it's a really cool world. I mean, it really is. I had an opportunity to interview Margaret Weiss once. We were going to use it for the Dead Game Society, but we never ended up doing that. But it was interesting to talk to her about, how the whole genesis of the thing. But they really do he's right. They hit a lot of very interesting ideas. My only, I never really did a lot of Dragonlance. It just seemed a little scripted to me, but the world itself is very fascinating.
Yeah, I have to agree on that point. Yeah.
Well, then we'll have to revisit it in another show in the future then.
I guess so.
Just for your buddy, Nick.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
Because our show cares.
Not really, but anyway.
As far as you know, it does.
We feign being, we feign we care very well. So.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go to our last voicemail tonight.
Hello, Roll for Initiative. This is Angelic Doctor on the forums. Every now and again, you'll talk about another system entirely, and I would like to request that you speak to Gamma World, a system that I think has not gotten the attention I think it richly deserves. So if you would spend a few moments talking about Gamma World, I'd greatly appreciate that. And also, perhaps talk about how it might intersect with Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Oh, not a problem. Angelic Doctor. I the first time I've ever heard his voice, I've always talked to him for all these years, I didn't know he sounded like Mr. Wizard. Doesn't he? That's cool. He sounds like
Timmy.
Yeah, he's the wizard from the old Nickelodeon show. That's awesome. I miss Mr. Wizard. Yeah, Gamma World. I've never really played Gamma World. I played Mutant Future, but not Gamma World. Chad, you're the Gamma World expert here, really.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in on this one. When I was still in high school, actually, we did using the DMG crossover rules. We did a Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition crossover with Gamma World. It involved our party sees the strange flying, pedestal land, and these metallic looking humans get out, and we ended up having to battle with them, and we were fairly high level at that time, and we were getting our keisters handed to us. We're firing high-level spells, wielding pretty good weapons, and they're using black ray guns to deadly effect. It was a blast, though. It was really fun. And Gamma World is one of those games that I just don't think gets enough notice. It's just a really fun game. I think I was mentioning to you guys earlier, there's so much you can do with Gamma World. If you like zombies, post-apocalyptic, anything like that, you can throw it in there. And there's, I know one GM who's an excellent GM. He runs a Thundar the Barbarian game at GaryCon every year. I think he runs it at Gen Con, and it does great.
Demon Dogs.
Demon Dogs, Lords of Light.
Have the Savage World blog?
That is it.
Yeah, I thought so. Yes, yeah, I love his stuff. He's a good guy.
It's very
Lords
good.
of Light.
It's just such a versatile game. You know, you could do just about any near future genre with it.
Yeah.
You could do Road Warrior. You could do Thundar. You could do
E-Man.
You could probably even, if you had a technologically advanced enough area, which, you know, you're the GM, you can make the rules as far as that goes. You could even do something like Cyberpunk, I suppose, to a degree.
How about Thundercats?
Yeah, you could actually, because they
Yeah,
do
you
have
could.
mutated animals.
Yeah,
Yep.
mutated
They do that.
animals, and they have like motorized vehicles and all that. So yeah,
Yeah,
Very
it's
much so.
Gamma World is very gonzo in that, very over the top. I mean, well, there was that one 2 series of modules, the anomalous subsurface environment. I mean, that's about as close as to Gamma World as you can get without using the Gamma World rules. So, and that could probably easily port into there as well. I mean, and you got the AD&D DM's guide with the conversion between the two. So.
Which version of Gamma World would you suggest our listeners try to find if they wanted to play, Chad?
I'd probably say third.
Third, okay.
But, you know, what's interesting, I always thought that they took it straight from Gamma World. If you watch the beginning of Terminator and remember the big tracked tank-like thing that's rolling and blasting everybody, I mean, it's almost, to me, it was a death machine.
Yeah.
So that's another area you could do with Gamma World.
Me, I would go with either first or second edition.
Oh, really? Why is that?
World. Well, that's the ones I'm familiar with. I stopped playing Gamma World after third because I believe at third edition they changed kind of the rule set a bit.
Oh, okay.
They did a little bit, yeah. And I like first and second edition too.
I know first and second edition Gamma World was compatible with AD&D, and so it was at the time. It was something I was familiar with, I was comfortable with. So, yeah, that's just me.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of bounce around with the editions. I've run first edition at GaryCon. I've run third edition. I don't know if I've run second edition.
Really wasn't much difference between the first and second edition rules, from what I understand.
Not a huge, not that I've seen.
Yeah, and now as far as adventures, I do have. Was it the City of Gold, which is kind of like a
Legion of Gold.
Legion of Gold, excuse me. Yeah, which is kind of a sandbox kind of adventure. It's kind of like Gamma World's version of Secret of Bone Hill in a way. And then my favorite, The Famine in Fargo, which is a really fun adventure. Has mutant chickens
I
in
don't
it.
think I've read it.
It's got mutant chickens in it.
Hmm.
Bawk. Bawk, 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 cluck, cluck, cluck.
How about the D20 setting for Gamma World? You guys ever played that at all, or not?
I have played that one.
Not the one for 4th edition. The one that I guess that came out right as the open gaming license exploded.
I heard it was okay, but then again, I've also seen a lot of those on like buy 3 get 5 free at conventions.
Yeah, my local half price books has some of those 3rd edition Gamma World, D20 Gamma World books. So, I don't think it'd be too difficult to pick it up. But I've actually never played any Gamma World, so I know next to nothing about it, other than the 4th edition version required you to buy trading cards.
Oh boy!
Yes.
Looking on Amazon right now, Gamma World, the 2nd edition box set goes for $272 brand new.
What?
Yeah.
Inconceivable.
The 3rd edition rules that Chad was talking about was $99 new. Or $40 used. So.
Duh, get them used, yeah.
You know what? I actually have to correct myself. I was thinking of 2nd edition when I said 3rd.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You know what? Sorry about that. I haven't looked at my Gamma World.
Oh, jeez. Now we got to start the show all over again.
Oops. I'm a big enough man to admit it.
Okay, good.
The 1st edition box set, $436. Wow. Or you could buy a collectible for 124, which I would think would be more than new, but I guess.
Yeah.
I don't get
I
that.
just always loved that first edition picture, though. The guys look like they have flamethrowers and they're moving into the city.
Yeah, that is a cool
And you know what? That box set has a great map of North America. It's awesome.
Yeah, I always think of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I always think of.
Cool. So we'll have to do a future episode on Gam World.
Yeah.
Why not? Maybe. I don't know. Let's get into some emails. rfistaff@gmail.com. The first email comes in from Brian Scott, and it says, okay, so I'm new to the podcast, been listening to the archives every day to catch up. However, I really wanted to know about something that nobody really seems to be able to give me details on. Where do I go to find out exactly what happened inside the company during Lorraine Williams' era? Please forgive me if I've missed the episode on this one. The reason I ask is I've always been curious about the culture inside TSR and what changes happened in the transitions. I get parts and stories, but never the entire picture. I feel something similar happened at White Wolf and other companies. And as always, it is a topic that nobody seems comfortable talking about with me. I've always felt there was some kind of major culture shift early on. The community was directly writing and influencing the materials. Somewhere this seemed to diminish, and it is maybe that should be pattern repeated through much of the industry. P.S. Playing at the World is in the mail, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Thanks, Brian.
Did Lorraine Williams take over White Wolf?
No.
No. Actually, I wasn't part of the culture
rampaged through
inside
the
of it
gaming
either, so.
industry like Godzilla, destroying companies as she went through.
CCP.
Like Mecha Streisand.
Mecha Streisand. Mecha Lorraine Williams.
No, CCP Publishing took over White Wolf when the people that made EVE Online. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, you know what? I wasn't part of the culture inside either at that time. So to be honest, I couldn't say.
You'd have to be a TSR employee.
Actually, I do have some insight on this. I've talked to various people about this topic, and this is from what I understand when the Lorraine Williams era came in,
dun, dun, dun.
Which was circa 1985, 86, right around there when Gary Gygax left. Now, anybody who doesn't know, Lorraine Williams was the heir to the Buck Rogers dynasty of comic books and stuff. What's that?
And the 25th century.
Yes.
Right.
Not Duck Dodgers, but Buck Rogers.
I know Flint Dilley, her brother. He's a really great guy. I just don't know Lorraine Williams, so I'm not going to.
But
really
she came into this, with the whole thing with the Bloom brothers and how they started to, push out Gary. They got her in because she had money. And it was made quite apparent that once she got in there, she did not have a very high regard for gamers in general.
You can't actually say that.
From what I've heard.
You can't actually say that because I've heard the complete opposite of that. That was untrue. And
oh, really?
She was very much for gamers. She was just more focused on the Buck Rogers thing. That's all.
Yeah, I know that one of the things that she did do was they did that Buck Rogers game that came out later on in the late 80s. But I think it was just they were trying to generate enough income to get out of the financial slump that they were in.
Let's just churn out books.
Yeah, basically that's what happened. So, they had, when she came in, 2 years later, you got Forgotten Realms, and before that, I think within a year, there was Dragonlance as a campaign setting. Then they started doing all the books for Dragonlance, and then you had... let's see, and then you had Forgotten Realms again, all the novels there, and that's from what I know from.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of those games and editions you just mentioned are fairly well beloved by a lot of people. There are a lot of Dragonlance fans, a lot of Forgotten. I'm not a huge Forgotten Realms fan. I like Greyhawk,
edition Forgotten Realms before it turned in the second edition and that whole Avatar jazz.
Right. Yeah, when they came out with that first box set.
The first box set came out in '87. That was for first edition AD&D.
Right, and that had the that had the picture of the looked like orcs on horses riding after that. Yeah, I like that. I thought it was pretty detailed.
Mm-hmm. But I as far as like, I guess she was trying to run it as a business, you know.
And then it was during the early '90s that when Magic the Gathering became a hit, they decided we're going to get into that collectible realm as well with Dragon Dice and
Spellfire.
Yeah, and that whole expansion failed really, really bad because they made a lot. They pushed it out through mass market stores, through Random House, and it didn't really catch on.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that really hurt them later on is when they lost their deal with Random House.
Right, and then they also at the same time had a bunch of hardback novels come out that didn't sell well either.
Yeah.
So that strained their relationship with Random House, which hurts their distribution. So they ended up losing a lot of money because with Random House, they had a number of returns on Dragon Dice and these unsold novels resulted in a fee to TSR of several $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it was during that period, and at which point they had no cash on hand to pay their basically their logistics people, the people that printed their books and warehoused their books and all of that. So they refused to work.
Yeah. We've also heard from, like, I know we've had like a few guests on that were in through that era too, that it was basically in general, there was that shotgun effect of product that kind of went out there for a number of years because they wanted to try to generate that income, but it was, I guess, the scatter. It was too much. It was too scattered. I don't know.
Well, do you think it's partly TSR was always ahead of the pack for a long time, you know, in terms of original gaming. And, you know, you mentioned that they wanted to cash in on the Magic craze, right? Well, then that's kind of a switching of gears for them. Instead of leading the pack, they tried to catch on to another fire that was already going.
Right.
And I don't know if that was wise.
Right.
No.
Just think of the 90s, the mid to late 90s in the world of RPGs. What was really new and innovative at the time? The stuff White Wolf was doing?
Yeah, Vampire.
I mean,
which I never got into at all.
Yeah, I never did either, but outside of that, it was kind of a dark age for RPGs, the 90s.
The only thing
I actually liked Vampire, but I didn't. I liked it when it first came out.
Never appealed to me at all.
I always thought it had to be played as a LARP. I never realized, hey, you could just play this as a tabletop game, so I never bothered.
I would, around that time also, it was, the whole kind of angsty, cyberpunkish thing was really big. You had Cyberpunk, you had Shadowrun.
But
also,
Shadowrun was around years prior to that. Yeah, but...
Well, Cyberpunk was around years prior to Shadowrun.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
And I hate it when people put them in the same lumping, by the way. I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it just seemed in the 90s there was no innovation, really.
Not really.
Everything we got... the RPG realm just got stagnant.
Well, the computer game industry really started to take hold because computers started to get better and by 1995 you have Windows 95, graphics were getting better for computers, hence the games were getting better on computers, and then that was really starting out to overtake your pencil and paper RPGs.
Well, I'll go even kind of more out there, I guess, in theory, but compare the music too. Right, the music got more angsty. The games got more angsty in the 90s.
Yeah, they follow kind of the same pattern.
Right. Yeah. Hence why a game like Vampire caught on. It appealed to that type of cultural shift.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, we had West End Games churning out tons of games as well.
Oh, true.
Right. Licensing every popular movie they jumped on and made an RPG for at the time.
And for quite some time through the 90s, especially through the mid-90s, Call of Cthulhu was very popular. I mean, especially when the Delta Green stuff came out.
Oh,
my
Delta.
gosh.
Well, I'm actually friends with John Tynes, who wrote that.
No kidding.
Yeah, we went
know
to
that.
college together. We were part of the same gaming club in college.
Lucky.
Yeah. But I mean, Call of Cthulhu's been around now. That's it was around in the 80s too.
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it really kind of came into its own.
Right. And Delta Green was really Pagan Publishing's attempt. I always call it Aliens if Call of Cthulhu was Alien.
Yeah,
It was the first time you got to actually kind of fight back, and I say kind of because you still
it was
ended
kind
up
of
running.
like X-Files written into the game in a way. That's how.
Which is another good topic that you just brought up, because you're right. X-Files was out at that time. Conspiracy was huge.
Yep. So there was a lot of stuff going against TSR at the time.
So yeah, it makes you wonder, was TSR at a point creatively, where they the same thing, happened when grunge came into the scene in the 90s. A lot of these big bands from the 80s literally had no idea how to keep up. They didn't know that. That's not where they came from.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of a sudden, well, groups like Poison are like not in style anymore.
Hey, I like Poison.
Open up and say ah.
Okay, so thanks, Brian. We don't really have anything to really tell you about that. And as far as White Wolf shift, I don't really think there was anything similar that happened to White Wolf. It was just CCP. They pretty much took a company that was going under and just revamped it, is what they did.
Right. They basically just streamlined and reorganized to make it to where it could still exist.
Yeah, that's all it really did.
I can tell you, when I went to a White Wolf party at Gen Con in 2004, it was awesome.
Yep. They do know how to throw a party.
They do know how to throw a party. That's right.
Last time I remember them being at Gen Con, they had a booth that was nothing but plugging their giant masquerade down in New Orleans.
That was
I never got invited to the White Wolf party.
Aw, you didn't?
Yeah. Panda Bear is sad.
I never did either.
I did.
I don't know. I never really hung out that much around their booth. So.
Yeah, I never tried either.
And for some reason, they never came to my hotel room to give me the invitation, so I don't know what that was about.
Guess you were on the elite list. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. White Wolf they just revamped and decided to keep them going. Now they have Onyx Publishing under White Wolf, which is a third chain company, I guess. Well, I guess what, CCP, White Wolf, doing business now as Onyx Publishing. I don't understand that, but they're bringing.
Well, they redid the entire game, didn't they? I don't know much about Vampire the Requiem. I can't pronounce it even, but I mean, supposedly they just rebooted the whole game.
They did. They did the New World of Darkness and.
What, the vampires are sparkly now?
No. I do get to take credit for one thing about White Wolf history, though. My friend Mark and I, who did the Darker Days podcast way back when it was the original, we coined the phrase "classic World of Darkness" for White Wolf, and they took on to that. So I coined the phrase. So,
Give that man a cookie.
Yum yum yum, cookie, good food. Yeah, I don't know.
1d4 hit points.
No. Next email comes from Shane. It says, Vince Nicky.
Shane, come home.
Shane. I'm going to run I6 on Roy and for Ravenloft in October, Halloween themed game. Can't wait. Can't find anything about the appropriate method to start a multi-class character above first level. As I look through the required XP for level 5, each class is different. It doesn't seem fair to give multi-class characters to 5th level in all classes. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Shane. I don't play with those rules. Nick, I don't think you do either, right?
Actually, there is something in the DMG, Appendix P.
Yeah, I thought it was N. I was thinking of N for some reason.
Yeah, create a party spur of the moment. And the section says for levels, Now, I've read through this a few times, and I'm still trying to get through the wording. So, multi-class races are best handling by, now hold on your horses, are handled by adding one per level, or it's a multi-class races are best handled by adding one level per profession to the level generated, and then dividing the total by the number of classes involved, counting all fractions as whole numbers. Yeah. Does that make any sense to anybody?
No.
Anyone?
Not much. I mean,
No.
when I've done it before, I simply say, I don't really go based on level per se. I go based on XP. I give a stated amount of XP for all the characters to work with to make their character. And what that means is if you want to play, say I give out 18,001 XP. Well, the fighters, clerics, and thieves are going to begin the game at 5th level. The paladin, ranger, and magic user, they're going to be 4th level. And the half-elven fighter, magic user, thief, he divides that starting XP by 3, and he begins at 3, 3, 4, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
Or the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and you also have to note, even though the fighter and the thief are both beginning at 5th level, the thief at that amount of XP, he's close to leveling to 6th. The fighter really has only just become 5th. And it works because in a straight-out fight, the fighter is generally going to be a tougher adversary. So the thief generally levels faster.
So I'm trying to think of maybe in this question, like if he wanted to generate a 5th level, I don't know, like let's say a 5th level cleric magic user, okay? Just for sake of argument. So it's like an elf cleric magic user. So 5th level, so you have 2, so you add 1 level per professional level generated, okay? So if we're going to say he's 5th, so it'll be 6, right?
Yep.
So, and then dividing the total, the number of the classes involved. So counting all fractions down. So there's 2 classes. So I guess he would actually be a 3/3 magic user cleric, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how I think it sounds like they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Because you take that total number of classes 2, divide it by the level total. I'm sorry, yeah. Then dividing the total by the number of classes involved. Okay, so yeah, I guess it would be you'd be at level 3/3 magic user cleric.
Right.
So I guess that's how you would do it. That sound right?
Yeah, and then if you think about just how the math for if you were to just hand out the flat XP amounts like we were talking about, you would probably in that instance end up with a 3/3 character.
Yeah.
So,
it sounds like it's going to be kind of like a one-shot thing anyway, so I didn't think experience points would be much of an issue.
Right, and you're right. As far as continuing, if it's a one-shot, obviously continuing to make a importance on gathering XP is not going to be an issue. But it does make for a fairly easy way to come up with multi-class characters on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, what I guess by the book system, what would a fighter magic user be instead of I think you were saying a cleric magic user, because
it'd be still 3/3.
Okay, because if you're using XP and saying you're giving out enough for a fighter to just become 5th level, you would have a 4th level fighter, 3rd level magic user.
Well, then you would have to boost what the minimum range would be for whatever, because you're not going by. They're just going by whatever level. They're not going by experience points.
Right. I'm just thinking. I mean, it almost seems like it's giving. I like to do it by XP because if you were to start the game at 1st level, that would essentially be how you would be doing it. I don't know. That's interesting.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
But yeah, so.
But I digress.
Yeah. So yeah, use XP or go by the book and just add 1 to the level you want to generate and divide by 2. Those are in either way, it's going to be close enough that it's going to be I don't think anyone will complain at the table whether or not you have a 4/3 or a 3/3. So
blah.
Now let's go on to our next email, and it is from Dave the Moderate. Greetings, RFI staff. A friend's local face-to-face group has kindly offered a seat at their table, which is marvelous. The downside is they play Pathfinder, which I know basically nothing about, but am willing to learn, of course. Their group takes turns hosting games and is open to other games so long as they reach a consensus, so I want to sell them on playing AD&D. Good for you. We must spread the game and plug our podcast while you're at it.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. A couple of the group played 2E when they were kids, which appeared to be about a week and a half, judging from their youth. The rest have never old schooled, so I have to sell 1E to the group of youngins who cut their teeth on the WotC version of D&D. You guys have far more experience with the later revisions than your humble servant who hung up his dice in the early 90s without turning into edition wars and keeping it positive. What selling points would you use to convince them to take a chance on rolling back the clock to a simpler, grittier game when role-playing took precedence over dice rolling and the characters of the player is more important than the player characters? Which is how I'm thinking of pitching the game, by the way. Many thanks, Dave the Moderate. And he's got a PS here. More than 2/3 of the way through the back catalog, 60 episodes as of right now, and I just wanted to tell Vince that I have come to truly appreciate your crusty grognardiness.
Thank you.
I see the show's topics and think, oh, Vince will hate this. And you do! I may not agree. After all, secondary skills were written in by Gary, opening the door to non-weapon proficiencies in later 1E, but I always enjoy your acerbic commentary. So, selling people that have never played AD&D or old school games on this wonderful game. I think, first off, just lure them in with a one-shot and walk them through character creation, because you'll take like a whole 5 minutes to do that.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a quick sell right there.
Right. It'll be simple. You can pitch it as a one-shot and let them play, and when you run your one-shot, focus on the strengths of this game, which is letting the players do whatever they want and not have to worry about min-maxing everything. Mm-hmm. Just maybe pull out one of the classic modules to give them, just to show them this is what gaming was like back then, and just kind of pitch it as just like a one-shot. Don't worry about selling them on a multi-session campaign. Sell them on let's just try it once. Kind of like a drug dealer. You give them the first one free, then they'll be begging for more.
Give them crack and they'll play your game.
Yes.
No.
Give their player characters crack.
No, it's heroin is the drug of choice.
Oh,
now.
Heroin. Oh, okay. I don't like the syringes and the needles.
Yeah, I don't like needles.
No.
Anyways,
back to the thing at hand. But yeah, I would say let them talk them into letting you run like a one shot first, so that way they can just see how simple and flowing the game gets and how you don't get bogged down in number crunching in combat.
Yeah, that would be. Those are really good selling points, if you will. I mean, thinking of how he's going to talk about rolling back the clock to a simpler, grittier game. You know, those try to make it sound appealing in that regard. You shouldn't have to sell it too hard if you're enthusiastic about it.
Right.
If you're excited about it, then they should catch on to that. Saying that it's simpler rules. It's definitely more open in the game as far as what rules are needed, and it's more about the interaction of the players with the DM and each other than, tactical moves on a map,
right?
Which you don't need.
Right.
It's nice to have, but you don't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, be prepared. You may at first need to draw out some of the more character-driven things if they're heavy players of like 3.5 or 4E. Because they're so used to thinking in that tactical min-max manner, when all of a sudden you give them an open world where their choices really aren't constrained like they are in later editions. Mm-hmm. they may fall into like an analysis paralysis where they have so many choices they don't know what to do. So you might have to do a little hand holding and just saying, well, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, throw out some options for them until they start getting into the flow of just being creative in their problem solving, as opposed to like in combat in 4th edition. If you're not using like all your encounters, your dailies and whatnot, you're not going to be an effective character. That is not an issue in this game.
Yeah, and what's the one thing that we always say? It's rulings, not rules. As long as you're consistent. For those things that fall outside of what we say the normal rules, which is really just combat stuff and saving throws. I mean, let's be real about this. I mean, outside of that, there isn't a whole lot of rules that, you know, if you miss something, as long as you're consistent from now on, you know, you're okay. Like, you know, like stuff for aquatic combat or aquatic adventures, for example.
Right. Or
maybe you have your own set of rules for that, and that's okay. As long as it works within the system and you're consistent with it, go for it.
Right. Or the grappling overbearing rules.
Yeah, you could use something totally different.
Right. Just remember, everything in like the DMG and the Player's Handbook, they're guidelines. It's just, this is how we think the game should be run, but it doesn't have to be ran exactly that way. So I would also, when running it, make sure you're moving fast as a DM. Don't get bogged down looking up all the various modifiers.
Yeah, that's true.
Keep
that's
the game flowing. If you don't know the overbearing rules inside or out, don't touch them. There's a lot of modifiers you have to go through and add in to determine if you to use them properly. And if you can't do that quickly, don't use them.
Yeah, don't use them. I don't use them. I don't think I've ever used them. Just for example, I always use just like, if you want to punch a guy, I just say, okay, make it to hit roll.
Right.
Well, what's my damage? Let's just a D3 plus your strength bonus. There.
Right. Or,
you know, something like that.
Yeah, you're trying to wrestle with someone. I say roll a d20, add your strength to it, and then I do the same for the NPC. Whoever gets highest one.
Maybe it's a dexterity roll. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And one of the things I do at conventions all the time is I seem to always have at least one guy at the table who is not familiar with the early editions. And you really do have to keep the pace going. And if you're going to run a 1st or 2nd edition game and you want to sell them on it, you really have to keep it moving. You shouldn't get too bogged down in 1st edition's grappling rules. They can be really hairy. But, you know, another thing I would try to do is really sell them on the flexibility of 1st edition as well as the danger, assuming, of course, you can judge your own fellow players. Are they the type that enjoy, I don't know, a good peril? If so, you can really sell them on the fact that, you know, you're going to be dealing with level drains. You're going to be dealing with save or die attacks. And really hit them on the flexibility, because that's one of the biggest things I notice with later edition players is that they get so caught up in the skills and feats that when they come to an earlier edition where those don't exist, they just become paralyzed when they have, you know, well, okay, you come up to a wall. What do? Well, I don't have the skill climb, so I guess I'm incapable of climbing. You know, and as a GM, you have to say, no, you could try to climb. You could try to do anything you want. It may not be a huge chance. You're not a thief, but sure, you could try to climb. It's very open-ended, I feel.
And I'll just say this. I definitely hate this topic. No, I'm kidding. I agree with what Chad said. Sell them on the point of there's going to be a game that you're going to be looking around the corner. Every decision you make could kill your character. There's no superheroes in this game. There's no rolling a dice and you're just going to be doing tons of damage. Well, you can do tons of damage, but not like in 3rd or 4th edition when you have all these powers and spells. And
yeah, you're not coming out of the gate like Legolas here, you know?
And the monsters aren't going to be... They're not going to be rated against your party's level.
No.
Excellent.
All right. So think we covered that one pretty well. Let's move on to the next one here. It says, "Hi, love your podcast. Can you give advice to a new DM on when characters want to buy an inn and tavern in a small city and what it should cost? Thanks, Alan, a.k.a. the Rabid Gerbil." Ooh, that's a good one. You got anything on that, Chad or Matt? Buying an inn and or tavern in a small city,
the first place and I was just about that. I know that the DMG gives a lot of information on building castles and hiring people. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd have to check it again. I don't know if they cover buying an inn. Yeah. But that's one of those things that as a GM, you have to know your own game world and the economy of it. I actually did have a character. He's probably my first long-lasting character, and I'm not going to get into one of those, hey, my character. But he bought an inn. He built an inn called the Guilty Virgin, which was my homage to the Vulgar Unicorn. But and it became our kind of game base in character for a long time after that. But I don't know. I think my GM basically had an idea of how much he thought a gold piece went for. And, it was in a bad part of town. So the real estate was cheap. And that's another thing, too. You gotta consider, where are you building it? Are you building it in the behind the palace gates, or are you building it by the wharf?
Right. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the name. There's two reoccurring names that come up in my game world. So I don't know why, because someone always asks me, "What's the name of the tavern again?" One of them's either the Dragon's Kneecap, or the other one the Whore's Nipple.
Hey, I'm going to go to the second one.
Yeah. I actually have quite a lot of experience with this because I had a gaming group that all they wanted to do was buy and build up things and take over the world. So, like Chad said, you have to know your world and what the economy is like. So I generally just try to get a random number ahead of time because I know they're going to buy that. And then the number they have is usually knocked down because they wind up doing the whole mob style and taking over the place. So... So the game's involved.
I bet they're friends with the Thieves Guild.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, the Thieves Guild wound up going under because they wound up killing all the thieves. So. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the two names, they come from, I don't know if anybody saw that, it was a one-shot show that was on a long time ago on Adult Swim Network. It was going to be an animated series called Korgoth of Barbaria. You might still be able to find a video out there on YouTube. I highly recommend watching the pilot episode. It's hilarious. They should have made this. It's like Conan the Barbarian in a very tongue-in-cheek fashion.
What about Crod Bandoon?
Yes, that too would have been awesome. They kept that going.
It's a good episode. Yeah, good 6 episodes it was.
Yeah.
So what the price I did was 10,000 gold and based it from there depending on the size of the city. And generally my cities are pretty large, so.
Yeah, if I had to say, I would probably say in the world that I run, you could buy the Guilty Virgin for, I don't know, 50 gold pieces. The place is in a really bad part of town and a gold piece is worth a lot in my world.
Oh, there you go. There you have it. I guess, you're right. Base it off what your game world is as far as the economy and just kind of wing it. Just, trust your judgment on it.
Right, and also judge the coffers of your players as well. If they have a lot of excess gold, this is a great way to get rid of that.
Oh, that's an excellent point, Matt, because
and don't forget all the taxes you're going to have to pay on that place.
Exactly.
Yeah, and wait till the Thieves Guild shows up offering protection.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Right. That's another good way.
They're going to want their slice.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or perhaps your players have a few too many magic items. You want that in? You might have to sell some.
Oh, yeah. And all the various
and if you store your magic items there and it's a place that gets frequented by a lot of thieves, you may lose them anyway.
Well, no, if you store them there, they'll be visited by a lot of thieves if you store them there. What are you talking?
Don't forget, you got to get ale. Got to get with the Brewers Guild.
Right.
You're going to have, if you're going to have an inn or a tavern, maybe you're going to have the place where, you're going to have to put up people's horses and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm sure there's a
Stables.
guild that handles...
What if the local town guard? They drop by. Hey, we'll overlook infractions.
And then if you still want to adventure as opposed to play AD&D the business sim, then you're going to have to hire someone to run it for you. And are they a trustworthy fellow? Maybe they skim some off the top.
Just
exactly. That's another good one.
So yeah, you can use this in all kinds of creative ways just to actually fix your economy. So
yeah, and you can have the party going from "this is going to be awesome" to "oh my gosh, how do we unload this place?"
Right. Oh no, we're losing so much money on this. This isn't working at all. And next thing you know, they're in debt to a merchant before they were rolling in dough.
And then they're selling it for 50 gold pieces.
Right.
Exactly. Or Adventure Lightning happens.
Okay.
All right, no one got that reference. Never mind.
Yes. Yeah. Shall we move on to the next one?
We shall.
Okay. I think he wrote, hello TRI DMs. I think he meant RFI. I was wondering if you've seen this video of golden eagles hunting mountain goats, and there's a link, and I'm sure we'll put that in the show notes. It's very amusing, by the way. I am curious, what is your thought about this rather innovative method on how you would use it to make eagles and other flying creatures more of a threat in combat? Jeff H., who also gave the voicemail, who's in my gaming group here in Ohio. So I thought about this one, and I'm like, should I just, I guess I would roll it to hit for the giant eagles or the griffins or whatever's tossing them down. And I don't know if I would. This is where I'm kind of split. Would I factor in falling damage? That D6 per 10 feet for the creature?
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. I may give you a save to see if you can tuck and roll to do like half damage.
Here's what I was thinking on that. Like if they're like, giant eagles or hippogriffs or griffins or, I don't know.
Dragons.
Or dragons, and they're tossing down, goats or cows and what have you. I was thinking I would do this is whatever height they are, you total up that damage. So let's say, sake of argument, 100 feet. Yeah. Toss them down at the 100 feet. They roll to hit. You roll all that damage for 100 feet for the damage that the cow's going to take. For example, a dragon tossing down a cow. Okay? I would half that damage, and that's the damage that your character would take. So it's 10d6. Say the cow takes 40 points of damage. You take 20 of that.
Yeah. You broke the cow's fall.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's a lot of cow coming down on you at 100 feet. That's going to hurt.
Yeah, think of it this way. If you were to put a cow in a catapult and hurl it at something, how much damage would it do?
A lot.
Exactly.
Look at Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Exactly. So I think having whatever the fall damage is would be perfectly fine. And really, I would probably increase it because I think a cow falling on you from like a height of 10 feet would probably do more than 2d6 damage. So I might even up it, like make a higher base level of damage just because, well, it is a several 100-pound projectile being dropped on you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and another place to go look that up would be the Wilderness Survival Guide because, I'm always looking for a reason to use that book.
Yeah.
But I think they cover it. I'm actually kind of skimming through it right now, but I'm pretty sure. I know they cover climbing from high places.
Right. And then actually bringing it back to our dragon discussion earlier, this would be a way to make dragons more dangerous.
This would be an excellent way to make dragons more dangerous. Give them the grab attack and then let them go high and let them drop.
Or just let them go high, grab, and fly above the rest of the party and be like, you stand down or I'm dropping your buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another way you can use that actually is give the dragon, or for that matter, any of the flying creatures already mentioned, griffins, hippogriffs, give them a really good surprise attack because they're swooping down from on high, silent and deadly.
Yep.
I mean, 1 minute you're munching grass on the mountaintop or whatever adventurers do. And the next, you have a griffin right on top of you and moving fast.
Dropping a goat on you.
Dropping a goat on you. Now, he doesn't normally eat adventurers, but when he does, he always eats the best.
Exactly. I'm sitting here on the mountaintop, and then, whoa, what the heck? Man, whap!
Yeah, no, that actually, hey, good job, Matt. That covers 2 stones.
Yes.
Or 2 birds.
Right. And actually, that'd be another thing you could drop on your players.
Stones.
Exactly. Large
or
boulders.
Small twigs.
Right.
Or
in the
things.
Case of white dragons, giant balls of ice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Ice turds. Oh,
yes.
You said turds.
Icy dragon turds.
Okay. Well, considering we didn't have a question about the bowel movements of dragons, we should probably move on to the next email.
Moving right along. Thanks, Jeff.
Yes. This next one is from the admin of the Dallas Old School D&D Players Meetup group, Jonathan.
Oh, he's a good guy. He actually played in one of my games here in Dallas.
Oh, cool.
Very good guy, Jonathan.
Yes. DM Vincent Gang, I was just listening to Volume 3, Issue 123, your podcast, in which you were discussing big battle rules. Enjoyable and interesting as always. However, I was surprised that you didn't mention that your fellow podcasters over at Save or Die had just done a show on August 3rd, number 76, in which they covered this topic very well, in my opinion. Well,
then listen to them, fine.
Well, and also a little secret about this show. We're time travelers, so we are actually traveling. When you listen to us, you're actually listening to our past selves because, we normally have like a 1 or 2 week backlog from the day we record to the time it's actually released. So probably when we recorded that episode, the number 76 of Save or Die probably wasn't even out. So, and they just happened to get released near the same time period.
So there.
So
Save or Die actually does shows every other week, so they're well behind what we're behind. So
right. Yes, if we started talking about how behind the podcast we're in being behind each other, it gets into a giant loop, and at that point we would need the Titor Corporation to actually know.
We need a TARDIS.
Yes, we would need a TARDIS and a Time Lord and a sonic screwdrivers. And I know nothing about Doctor Who.
Anyway,
moving on. I would just like to add that for my part, I too like to address battles and controllable snippets. I have no interest in moving from role-playing to wargaming in my D&D campaign, no matter what the system. The idea that you mentioned about having how the players do in a series of snapshots in the battle determine the tide of the overall battle makes sense to me as well, with the players in the courtyard of the castle defending the gate from the ogres trying to break it down, or defending a town from a unit or two with perhaps a couple of higher-level baddies as the main army passes by. However, I would also like to quibble with the idea expressed by the 3 of you that players will feel railroaded if they can't control the outcome of the battle. Battles in a war setting are not necessarily controllable by a few individuals, even heroic ones, especially if the armies they're facing is much larger than the armies that they are defending. The tactic idea is a good one, but even if the tactics are perfect, I still think they should lose the battle to a clearly superior force if that's what they are facing. A good alternative, perhaps, is to have the players accomplish a mission that turns the tide of the battle off the battlefield, such as several examples that happened at the end of Return of the King with the returning with the Riders of Rohan or the Oathbreakers, for example. Thanks for listening, Jonathan. So, I don't know. It's like, I guess when it comes to me and my game, I like to think my players are like these superhero focal points and the entire universe actually does revolve around them. So that's why I am not overly fond of the concept of having a negative outcome that they have no control over at all. Just my thought. What about the rest of you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just kind of think that I don't know if I have a really good answer or anything because I'd never really experienced this. I guess how I could handle it. It really depends on how the scenario is. I mean, if you're talking about a big battle, I mean, you could have it to where they're kind of manipulating things off the battlefield to help turn the tide of the war. If that's part of the overall story arc, then go with it. I know from a player standpoint, I am somewhat involved in a situation to where, at least we were, and my friend Jeff, his gaming group, we were kind of involved in kind of a war type situation, but we were kind of the focal point of the battle. So I don't know. As far as a DM, I'm not sure how I'd handle. I've never done that.
Here's what I'd say. Okay, while I agree that a superior force definitely has the advantage in most situations, I do feel tactics have to be a huge part when you're doing a large-scale battle. If you really, assuming you're letting your players be part of that planning process. I mean, obviously, if they're lower level, they probably aren't, but maybe they are on a smaller scale, on a squadron level. But if they are playing as part of the, team of strategists, they can definitely, their history's filled with smaller forces overcoming larger ones using good tactics. I mean, just look at I'm going to jump into my Wayback Machine here with Mr. Peabody, but look at the Battle of Salami, in which you had a much smaller Greek navy, and they were soundly defeated. They soundly defeated an overwhelming Persian force. And the way they did it was, and this happened after the whole, Sparta, but it happened afterwards because they tricked Xerxes into sending his huge navy into the Straits of Salami. Mm-hmm. And within those straits, right there. Yeah, they bottlenecked them, and it was their own size of their fleet that made them, it hindered their movements. They couldn't organize, and they became easy pickings to the smaller Greek armada that came in a straight line right into their disorganized ranks. And this is history. It's not, a book or a movie. They really did win this way. You have in China the Battle of Red Cliffs, which, by the way, Red Cliff is a great movie. But you had Jun Liang and Zhao Yu fighting for Liu Bai. But yeah, in a similar deal, they basically were up against the Han Dynasty's great battle fleet. And this fleet of ships were so close that they were able to use simple fire to set the entire fleet on fire. And of course, you can go more. You can go to the Battle of Agincourt.
A third naval battle, even a little bit more in recent history, where you knew the enemy was out there, you just didn't know where. The Battle of Midway, when that happened in early 1942. I mean,
look at Gettysburg. Gettysburg was another one. Pickett's charge got stopped because the Union took the hills.
I mean, you had a point, like when I was saying Midway, where you had a force you knew that was out there, and you had very little in the way of defending what you had because most of your battleships were sunk in the previous 6 months. So a lot of it has to do with intelligence and getting that information and taking advantage of using the element of surprise. So that was where, in that case, it was an element of surprise too, used against a marginally superior force coming up against one that was slightly overmatched. So you can put that into your game. Maybe you have a situation to where you knew the enemy was out there. There's all these orcs, gnolls, and ogres, but you just don't know where. But if you find them, if you send your little reconnaissance force, which could be the player characters, out to find them, you can help them direct the battle, set up the forces and hit them where it hurts the most.
And, I'll add one more thing, and that's because I know Matt was saying that he's right. The players are the heroes, but you know what? The heroes don't always win the battle. They might win the war, but they don't always win the battle. And a lot of times I hear people. One of the biggest complaints I hear about the module Assault on Area of the Slave Lords is that. Oh wait, that was no. You know what? I'm sorry. It's not that one. It's the other Slave Lords one where you start out with nothing as their.
Oh no, that's A3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Right. So
it's module A3 though, but yeah.
Well, what a great segue. You're not railroaded. Don't as a GM, I wouldn't say, the whole purpose is that they got to lose so I can segue them into this. I'm just saying if they lose, what a great segue into something like that. Right. Now they're not railroaded and they can enjoy the module.
Yeah. And also it's another way to where, like you said, they might lose the battle, but they might not win the war. It's like, how they say, the best, usually the best act of a 3-act play is the middle one, is Act 2, because that's where all the tension and the suspense is. I mean, Star Wars trilogy, probably by far, Empire Strikes Back to the most fans is the most suspenseful of all the 3 of the films, because that was when the Empire was striking back. So
exactly, they weren't taking the field on Hoth.
Right, you might have a scenario like that in your campaign where you have, you've won that first battle, but you're now the enemy is striking back, and yes, you're going to take a few, blows to the chin here, but you're down, but you're not out. That's where the suspense builds, and that's what we should do as good DMs to give your players, give them a little bit of suspense, kind of put them on the edge there, and make them think that, hey, this could go. We're the campaign, the adventure's like on the razor's edge here.
Right. And, just because, there obviously there are even more examples of where superior forces won. But the way I would treat it is simply, like you would if you had your players run into a band of orcs. They may win, they may lose. It's all really going to come down to their play. But if they do lose, that doesn't mean they can't be the heroes.
Right. I think the key is if you know that the players are going to lose, the group side that the players are on are going to lose a massive battle or something, make it feel like the players had a chance to win.
Well, and that's my point. You wouldn't know because you would treat it just like any other encounter.
Right.
It's all going to come down to their tactics and their roles. As the GM, you wouldn't know.
Right. And keep in mind that, losing doesn't necessarily mean the player character's all dying. There might be a certain objective that the enemy gets, and that's their quote-unquote victory condition. So,
right. And as the GM, it's your job to take whatever outcome is and spin it into an interesting segue. And as the player's part, it's their duty to take no matter what the outcome is and roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. I guess no one else has anything to add on that. Let's go to the the next question here. Our email. It's from Andrew or Outlander78. Says, "Hi guys, I'm trying to add a series of crypts to my game, and I'm stumped how to make them more interesting. I would like to hear your ideas on what you can put in a crypt other than undead, coffins, treasure, and simple traps, darts, poison needles, etc., to make them exciting and interesting. I would especially like to hear what each of you considers your favorite puzzle from past games." He says, "Full disclosure, I am sending this to RFI and Save or Die, so I would like to hear all of your ideas. Cheers from Andrew." Well, any of you guys got some ideas how to make a crypt more interesting besides the standard run-of-the-mill stuff?
I had a quick question when he says besides coffins, is he talking like a mausoleum, or is he talking, I don't know, just an underground without coffins in it?
I'm kind of picturing kind of a Tomb of Horrors kind of thing.
Right. It's
okay, so
The
an overall
the
kind of
dungeon's
dungeon,
kind of like
essentially.
lots of undead. It's a crypt of some undead bad dude, maybe.
Right. Yeah, it's like
or it could be just a part of a larger dungeon.
Right.
Well, I had this kind of interesting thought. It went two ways, actually. No, I just dropped a cap. But you could have, what about one? You could have, I mean, I guess if it was one room within the crypt and it was like a mausoleum and you didn't want to have undead in there, what about a golem?
Mm-hmm.
And two, if it's the crypt of a holy person, evil or good, I suppose. Remember, what about an Aliex?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Or,
yeah. You have disturbed the tomb or the crypt of somebody who's favored by the gods. And what do you find inside? Oh, you see yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
that's a good twist.
Yeah. Or what about you go to explore this crypt and then you find the doors already open, you find the skeletons already smashed, there's another party already halfway through it.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Because you're not the first to know about this. I'm sure there's other adventurers as well, so why don't adventuring parties actually run into each other when kicking the door and leaving?
That adventuring party, just for the heck of it, is the opposing party trying to keep the mummy rising from his crypt and taking over the land. Maybe they're trying to help him, and you're there trying to stop him.
Right.
Or maybe your paladin has a +5 sword, Avenger, and their paladin wants it.
Aha.
Right.
No, I'm just joking on that one. But well, he might be an anti-paladin, I suppose.
Yes, could happen.
Or he could be like, I need this sword to complete my mission. I'm on a holy mission, so therefore you must give it to me. Oh, you
That's
won't.
right. Your god is obviously more more important than his god.
Yeah, my god's bigger than your god, so you hand it over. And then, so you can just have that type of conflict. Also think about, not every crypt is sealed up, so why couldn't you also just have like woodland creatures living in it?
I was thinking of something like that. There was an adventure for Hackmaster called Slaughterhouse Indigo, where this house is, because you're kind of on the woodland thing.
Yeah.
This house was for some gnomes. And this gnome, this gnome clan. And the house was grown from a seed. The house was basically like a tree fashioned into like a house or a large mansion. But somehow undead got into it, touched the heart of the house, and the house became undead. So you had this house that you're going through, and it could be a crypt or a mausoleum. Maybe it was fashioned of wood. Maybe it was for the Grand Druid. And
maybe it's a big mimic.
Oh, yeah, that would really stink. But maybe you could fashion a crypt or a mansion or something that was of the Grand Druid, but somewhere along the time a level life-draining creature like a vampire or a specter touched the heart of the house and turned it into an undead house.
Yeah.
Now that would be a heck of a twist on a crypt.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got parts of the house attacking you, doors slamming on your head,
Well, you know what? I always think are underused. What about fungus?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much. When I did the Tower of Gygax, my room for the Tower of Gygax, I decided to focus entirely on fungus. So I called it the Twilight Garden. It was the garden for the Tower of Gygax. And I went through, I had phycomids, I had yellow mold, I had yellow creepers, there green slime, just so much. Gaseous spores.
Crypt dedicated to Jubilix, the demon of slime.
Yeah, but you know what? If you got a crypt,
it's just going to naturally grow. It gets a little damp.
It's going to start growing in there,
right? Mm-hmm. Not all crypts are not just stone and dust.
Yeah, they had lizard men in there as well. Why don't they go?
Yeah.
If the crypt's in a mountain, Maybe a bear wandered in.
Maybe
Yeah.
Oh, and incidentally, I'd have to say my favorite puzzle came from Castle Amber. It would have been I always enjoyed the magical letter square, where you had to step on certain tiles that spelled out a name.
Yeah.
I think my favorite was I think it was Ghost Tower of Inverness. There's like a section where it's like there's like a chess board set up. The room was set up like a chessboard.
Yeah, and you had to step on specific squares, otherwise you got a nice little shock.
Yeah. I always liked that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there was, Tomb of Horrors with its stick your hand in and you die.
Oh,
what was that?
The green demon face. Yes.
Yeah, and inside its mouth is a I just mind blanked on what it's called. It's basically a little black hole.
Sphere of Annihilation, I think.
Sphere of Annihilation, yeah.
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 Let me stick my hand in. You have no more hand. What?
Yeah. Tomb of Horrors was basically 1,001 Ways to Die, a D&D edition.
Yes.
Best adventure ever. All right, who wants to take the next one?
Okay, I'll do the next one here. Next one is from Brian Howard of Buffalo, New York. Hey guys, love the show. Just have a quick question about playing D&D on a tablet, and if you're aware of any character sheet apps or an easy-to-use character sheet online that can be used on a tablet for original Dungeons & Dragons. Thanks for all your good work, and please keep it up.
Bad Irishman.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but...
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Bad Irishman. He has everything.
He has the PDFs, and his are...
Available.
They are, but...
Yeah.
On a tablet, though, are they fillable?
As long as you got the correct PDF reader.
Okay.
Adobe Acrobat or Foxit Pro or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, because I've never actually tried that before.
Yeah.
But he says tablet, he means like an iPad, not a tablet computer, because where I work, they call tablets computers as well. So
yeah,
those are those computers you can fold over and use the pen with. So
right. Yes, and I assume he also doesn't mean like a stone tablet.
Yeah, I would hope not.
Yes, he's really old school. He's writing on a stylus made and has wax.
Right. He pulls out the parchment. He's good.
Yes.
Does he come down off a mountain?
Yes. And he drops it.
No, that's only when one of the characters dies. You have to actually smash the tablet of the character sheet.
Add these 15. Oh.
And it bursts into fire.
10 commandments.
Yes.
Next question. Let's go to the next email.
Next email.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do this one.
Sure.
Hey guys, just a question. How do you guys make items seem magical without the players casting Detect Magic? Also, if there is a magical item in the room that isn't obviously magical, do you give the players a hint that it might be? Keith. If I'd simply say, Keith, in my game, magic items tend to be rare, and so they have legends around them. And most common people will hear of some of these legends, and there's a chance, I usually give them a percentile chance, or perhaps even base it off of their intelligence or wisdom, that by its very appearance or inscription, they may say, hey, you know what? That looks like the sword of King Belvor of Furiondi, with which he single-handedly held back a horde of the undead. Maybe it's magic.
Or it could be just a plain broadsword. Who knows?
Yeah.
You never know.
But it's shiny.
Yeah. It's shinier than the other swords.
So it's got to be magical.
Exactly.
And it ain't well, I won't say that word.
Well, it was like the one.
King.
It was like the one joke I threw out way earlier in the show. It's like, there's the hidden shrine of Tomoe-chan. There's that wooden sword with the obsidian blade.
Yeah.
It has obsidian chips in it. You wouldn't think that's magical, but it is.
Right.
It's like a +1 sword +6 versus gas spores or something ridiculous like that. I mean, you would look at it like, whatever.
Right, but it's so different in wooden sword? Why would they have this? It sticks out.
Yeah.
So just by giving it a description that's like out of the ordinary, even if it's the description is, this is a really, really rusted and decrepit sword. And all these others are nice and perfectly shiny and sharp. They'd be like, one of these things is not like the other. Maybe we should investigate.
I don't know. I guess that's just some of the ways I guess you could do it. Tie some legends around the magic items. Or they're just a little bit more shiny and sparkly there than the others.
Hints, whatever.
Yeah, putting inscriptions on hilts of weapons is always good.
Yep. Where you get a big red arrow pointing to it that says magic item. That's a good way of doing it too.
Yeah, and you know what? You can also sometimes. I mean, you're not trying to fool the players, but sometimes players do get a little bit too. They can't help it. They bring a little bit of that out of character knowledge into the game, and they're like, you know what? I bet that's magical. And it's a great way to say, in a game that I run, it really is a magical shield this guy found, but the legends around it say that where this warrior walked in battle, his foes fled from him upon seeing the heraldry of his shield. And I actually got the idea from the Black Knight, he went in black armor. It was actually Lancelot. And there's an actual tale if you go back and basically, apparently Lancelot would go to tournaments and nobody would joust with him because he was so good. So he started going incognito so that people would joust with him. So I went kind of the other way around. I said, okay, well, this heraldry, people ran from it. And the player immediately said, it must have a fear spell on it. That or the guy holding it was really deadly and had a very good reputation. Yeah. So, it's one of those things where it actually was a magical shield. It didn't have fear on it. But that's where I believe the players have to start being a little more clever on their own end. Because the GM is not going to hand feed everything to them. Just because people run from it doesn't mean that it has fear cast on it. So I guess what I'm saying is you can give the players the idea of a magic item with description, but you can also, but they still have to work for it.
Okay.
Word.
Sure. Next one, I guess, or anybody else got anything on this?
No.
Moving right along.
All right, moving right along. I guess I'll read it.
Go ahead.
It's from Kurt. Hello, Kurt. I recently found your podcast. No, I recently found your podcast. I've been going through from the start and loving it. In one of the first 5 to 10 episodes, Jason mentioned that he had a whiteboard system for tracking how combat plays out with segments. I would love to take a look at it and see if I could incorporate it into my own game. Where can I find it? Thanks. I have no idea. Vince?
It's on our website. Jason recently posted a link on Gygax Magazine on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
It's still on our website. Matt could dig it up and throw the show notes for him so we could see it.
Oh, there you go. There you have it. Last one. Who wants it?
I'll go ahead and take it.
Okay.
Our last one here is from Stevie. I am a new listener and started listening at 101 and then jumped back to listen to the old shows and listening through those. Great, I may add. I was wondering if the shows have been done dedicated to just a simple plain fighter. I know it's pretty straightforward, class, but you guys have to have some ideas how to make it better or more interesting. I don't think we've actually done just a fighter.
No, we haven't.
No.
I haven't. You know what? We should.
Yeah, because we've hit subclasses of fighter and the paladin and then the knights and cavaliers, but no, we've never actually just talked fighter.
Not just the fighter.
No.
The underappreciated fighter. And then technically, to be precise, is one of my favorite classes.
Mine too. Yeah. Mine and the cleric. 2 of my favorites.
It's a class that's really versatile too in how you play it, because I don't allow cavaliers in my game. But my theory is essentially I tell players who want to play knights, I say play a fighter and be a knight.
Yeah. Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know what? Maybe we'll do a show. What do you think, Vince?
No.
Okay then. Sorry, Stevie.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, of course we could spend some time on it. I don't know about a whole show. It'd probably be a segment, but
yeah, we can cover it.
Yeah, if we
maybe an anecdote or two.
Yeah, And I'm sure there's stuff in Dragon that where they other offshoots of adding to a fighter that existed before they started adding the actual other classes that'll be probably rather
The Fighting
interesting.
Man.
The Fighting
It's the
Man.
original Fighting Man, yes.
Gabe, the Fighting Man.
The fighter.
I don't know. I just like that name for it.
We know. Okay. I guess this is going to wrap things up then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say keep it original, keep it old school. And, point of interest, Nick. You'll be interested in this. In December, be 4 years for us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right. 4 years.
4 years will be because you were in the very first 5. So, and then we got Matt. We wrote Matt in after that. So,
Yep, it is
4 years.
like
I'll be
27
doggone,
was
that's
my
right.
first.
and then I roped Chad in.
Yes.
What is that? 4 years? That's the aluminum year.
Is it? Oh, I expect some gifts, guys. Let's go. Come on.
All right, so 50 experience points. There you go.
That's more than you get normally.
So we haven't jumped the shark. That's good.
Not yet, at least.
Yet.
Yeah. Or jumped the boule.
Next week.
Talk about wrestling.
Oh, here we go.
Well, actually, I was second row at SmackDown this past
Oh,
week.
here we go.
Right behind the announcers, all over television.
Really?
Yeah. Called in a favor, got amazing seats. I was, whenever they did a cutaway to Cole and JBL on SmackDown, I'm directly behind JBL.
Is this coming up Friday? Or?
This past Friday on the 19th. Let's see. That would have been, it aired on September 20th.
I missed it. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do for 4 years? Are we going to do the classic flashback episode?
No, we won't do anything until 5 years, actually.
Okay.
So stay tuned next week when Nick jumps over a shark in a leather jacket.
Yes.
And I get thrown off a cliff by an eagle.
Yes.
And Matt will be thrown in a wrestling ring and body slammed by Mark Henry.
Oh.
Ow.
Stand there like Vince McMahon does. Let's keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
The Roll for Initiative podcast is a production of Wild Games Productions in association with D20Radio.com. You can visit us at rfipodcast.com or contact us on our forums at osrgaming.org or even by calling us at 570-865-4210. This podcast is produced for entertainment purposes only. All other uses are prohibited. And remember, if your magic missile spell doesn't automatically hit, you're playing the wrong edition. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Roll for Initiative.